Okay, pay attention, please, guys. Okay, so paper should be considered exactly like fabric. If we have a roll of paper or roll of fabric, it will be the length of the table. I'm sideways, that's what I'm doing. This is the best way to work to not make mistakes. If you actually use the salvage, see the paper has a blue line, it doesn't always have it. This is just like your grain line of your paper. Now, I will know that you put your paper sideways, okay? And you're gonna tell me that I'm a witch, well, I'll take it. But I'm gonna tell you how I know. Because on the grain line, your numbers will repeat themselves. 4, 4, 4, 4, 3, 3, 3, 3. Across the paper, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you put a grain line and I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I know you put your paper sideways. Okay? Now, I've seen that a lot of you place things on the grain line like this, and then you start working with it like that. I don't know if you guys have noticed. I hope that is very obvious. I'm short. I can't reach all the way there. But if I work along the grain line, I'm at reach the whole time. I tell you this because it's the bestest, I'm going to talk like the lady that trains online, bestest practices, right? Now, best practice is to always consider yourself that you are on the grain line. Your paper, your fabric, everything else. If you do a pair of pants, there's no way you're going to reach all the way there, right? Even here, Mr. Tall, he's smiling. You can't reach all the way there, okay? So, no. This is the best way to work on. It makes your life a lot easier. And if you forgot to put the grain line, you don't have to worry about it because it's always the numbers that repeat themselves, right? So, I know that my center front is perfectly on the grain line. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to do a line right on my grain line, which I am repeating the same number, in this case, number 2. If you ever have this blue line taken away from the paper, how do you find out the grain line? Find the same numbers that repeat themselves. So we have two options here. We can either put it on top and use the tracing wheel and copy it, make all your corrections, all your markings, or you can actually put it underneath and then trace it through. And that's the reason why I make my lines really dark. Okay? Now, make sure that it is placed exactly on that line. Probably, I don't know if I'm going to be able to see it, but I'm going to try. I like this method better than the other, but the other one is not a bad method. Okay? I am not going to copy the seam allowance. I'm going to copy the seam. That's really what I am interested in. Okay? And you want to put some pins because you don't want this to move. See, it already moved.
This in, the 12 will have seam allowance and not the...
We're going to add the seam allowance after we copy the pattern.
Just making sure?
Yes. You do need to have seam allowance, but we'll copy it later. Now, I find that if I put an extra piece of white paper underneath, my lines become darker because the brown of the table, you're not going to see it through. Okay? So, this one. So remember we squared off from here a little bit. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go through the shoulder. Okay, then here on the side, Oi. And I'm gonna cheat. I should use the curve, but I've been doing this for so long. I'm going to check it with the other ruler in a minute. But notice, I am not copying the seam allowance. I'm copying the seam. Okay? Here. This line I didn't make it really dark. Okay? And the dart, I'm gonna copy the dart. We're not here yet. Okay? If we were to have a sleeve, we would walk it and have the notch of the sleeve, correct? Okay, now, where I'm going to start now, what's the first thing I need to do? Grain line. So I'm gonna draw a grain line following the numbers, and I'm putting an arrowhead. Then I'm gonna draw this little sign here that says that is cut on fold. So I'm gonna do center front, cut on fold, because we're not gonna have a seam in the middle, okay? We're gonna label this. This is gonna be draped, basic, dress, bodice, size, and your name. You must put your name on every pattern piece. Okay? Now, punch holes. We are not going to make a punch hole on each corner, because the way we show punch holes on fabric, you actually use what is called an owl. Home Depot, ice picker, right? You go an owl to a fabric store, probably will be more expensive. Okay? So when you are going to do fabric, and by the way, if you're cutting 500 t-shirts and you need to make a punch hole, you're gonna have a drill that will do the same thing as this. So you're gonna poke a hole, right? But we don't wanna sew it exactly to that hole, because it's gonna be a hole in our garment, okay? So when your dart ends thin like this, your punch hole is gonna be add, let's do 3/8 of an inch in. That way you can thin out after it, okay? Here, we're gonna do a little less than 1/8. So you can stitch outside of that punch hole. And then 3/8 again. Your book actually says half, but I think that this, we can get away with that. Here I'm gonna do the same thing. Okay? We're good? I'm not gonna add seam allowances until after I do the back and I'm walking them. Okay? Now, to confirm the depth of the dart, some of you guys haven't done with me. I'm not going to close the dart with your pattern like this, because it actually will create this little bunchy material. So in order to make it easier to work on, and I did this with some of you guys when we're doing the fabric, I'm going to fold it where the dart ends, and now I'm going to close the dart. And I'm glad I'm doing this because I already see that I have an issue. Okay? So notice that by folding in the rest of the material, right? My dart has moved here on the side. See that this is not straight anymore? That's where the dart moved. See that now my dart legs don't match. And that I'm going to fix. Right? That's why I like pencil, because I can erase it. So I know this point is where it needs to be. So I'm going to fix this here, and I'm going to erase this. Yes? And then I'm going to get the tracing wheel, pizza cutter, torture tool, whatever you want to call it, right? And we're going to transfer the dart depth to the other side. So now we can make the correction right here. Now I have a nice centered dart. Now let's do the back. So like I said, I need a piece of white paper. I have a new paper. I'm going to do this center back now. Everybody okay with this? Yep. Okay. So I'm not gonna go all the way to the adding the seam allowance. You don't have to watch me do that. You guys are already experts in that. What I do want to is to walk the pattern when we get there. Okay? So here